All right, everybody. We're back in the saddle again. And, I guess before we even get started, what a great wrestling week, right? I mean, from WrestleMania, Saturday was really awesome. I thought Sunday was solid, good pacing, I think we had said. And then the Super Card of Honor the night before that they had with the Briscoes and FTR.
Wait a minute, did you say good pacing?
I thought Sunday was good pacing, I thought.
Oh, Sunday, yes. I'm sorry. I think you said Saturday. Because Saturday's pacing was a drizzling shit.
Yeah. They had to work that out. But Saturday had the bigger moments, I guess, obviously, too, with Austin and Cody. But yeah, great week of wrestling. Great week for FTR and FTR fans. They tore it up with the Briscoes. That was an amazing match. And then we'll talk about what they did at Dynamite here. But even going into this Dynamite, like there was a lot of good stuff in wrestling. But, I mean, AEW wasn't really talking to town because they're not really a part of that weekend other than the Ring of Honor stuff, which, again, we knew was going to
happen. To me, Ring of Honor almost stole the show.
They did in a lot of ways. I thought they did.
I mean, they set the bar very high to start the weekend.
They did. In fact, if there was no Saturday night with no Cody Rhodes and no Steve Austin and all that stuff, it doesn't, like, Ring of Honor completely stole the show. That's not even a question.
If you don't have those two moments, unfortunately for the WWE, and don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking WrestleMania this year. I thought WrestleMania was one of the better WrestleManias recently, but it was definitely Ring of Honor stole the show on Friday night.
Yeah, interesting notes. I know producer Joe's not here to go in depth on ratings and stuff like that, but I'll bring up a couple ratings things real quick. Raw did like a 2.1 this week, one of the best numbers they did in a long time, obviously coming off that Mania buzz. What I noticed is the NXT show stayed roughly the same. Really no movement, despite the fact they had the world title match on Raw. It seems to me the NXT 2.0 audience is really a different audience at this point for the most part.
No, it definitely is. I'd also be interested to know, and unfortunately, like you said, our numbers guy isn't here today. I'd be interested to know what the numbers were like after Cody Rhodes was done talking, where we were at that beginning point, and where we were at for the rest of the show at that point.
I was listening to Wrestling Observer. If I remember correctly, don't quote me on this, I believe the beginning hour was one of the best hours they did in a long time. And yeah, that segment with Cody was huge, along with a few other stuff. Maybe my boy Ezekiel as well.
I know people love the line this world, so.
Your pill.
Of course, if you're not catching the sarcasm there, the main event was just Roman Reigns coming out and going, "I'm the champion.
Yeah.
Look at me, acknowledge me. Oh, by the way, I'm not telling you who I'm challenging next. I'm not wrestling anybody. I'm not fighting anybody. Have a great night." You
paused a little bit there, so good. I'm glad you said it because I was like, I don't know what he said. All right, so yes, sarcastic. All right, that ending was awful. But I wanted to say too, and we'll get into. I know what we'll get into AEW Dynamite because there's one other thing I'm curious about, and we'll talk about it as we go through this show.
I know you mentioned NXT, and I hate to drag back to something that you had mentioned. It is a completely different audience, and we'll talk more about it as we talk about our top fives. But I thought NXT dropped the ball this week, and I think that it's not one of their better shows that they had in a while. Even though the wrestling was even though the wrestling was good, don't get me wrong, the wrestling was great. I enjoyed seeing Gunther wrestle. And we can talk about it now if you want.
I was going to say, they dropped the ball in a couple of different ways, too. Obviously, maybe they shouldn't have put the tag titles on MSK in retrospect.
Now, in fairness, they didn't have that information before putting the titles on MSK.
You know what, though? I was looking at the timeline, and some of those tweets were out by Monday, Tuesday morning. So,
yeah, but the belts were put on them on Saturday.
Yeah, but you could have made a decision Tuesday night. You know what I mean? Yeah,
but they might not have caught those tweets early enough to take the belts off them. But that also might be why MSK wasn't, if you remember, they won the tag titles and they weren't on the show at all on Tuesday.
Yeah, I thought they were, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, at the end of the day, we don't. I don't know if we have tag champions. I guess we don't. I don't know if Wes Lee is still.
I mean, we might have a tag team champion.
Yes.
But we definitely do not have tag team champions.
Right.
The other place that they dropped the ball was in their use of Gunther.
Right.
You don't take a beast like that, bring him out, and show what he can do, have him destroy people. Now you have a champion who literally won the belt the night before, has been dragged through the mud all weekend long, wrestling his ass off, comes out and beats this monster cleanly in the middle of the ring on a Tuesday night show that literally meant nothing. Not a special show, you literally wasted Gunther. And why? To set up Joe Gacy?
Right.
That's just idiotic booking.
I heard from Wrestling Observer, I think the rumor was that Gunther and Eichner, I think it was Eichner, one of those two was actually going to go up to the main roster. Yeah. But now with the thing going on with MSK, that might not actually happen. So that might have been why the sudden loss, just to get that match out of the way.
Yeah, it just, to me, it doesn't make sense because afterwards they did have Gunther and the other partner, not Eichner. Eichner's the one who walked down.
He was, okay. Yeah.
But they had the other partner actually talk in the locker room afterwards, like, hey, don't worry, we'll pull this together. We'll still take care of business, whereas Eichner was nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, Marcel Barthel. Yeah, not exactly the easiest names.
But like I said, I don't have a problem with putting people over. A loss is a loss, and that's not really the big thing here. The big thing is the booking. I think the booking was absolutely asinine, and coming off of a great weekend of wrestling. First of all, your NXT championship is decided on Raw. It's freaking stupid.
The idea would be, here's the idea, right? The idea is more eyeballs on Raw, and now people are going to tune into that product the next day. But that didn't happen.
Did not happen.
No.
Yeah. So whatever their thought process was, I'm just telling you this. We try not to be too negative on here, but to be honest with you, this is some of the crappiest booking that I've actually seen for NXT, even since they've been 2.0. So
we're going to get into Dynamite, and we'll talk about this, but we are talking ratings and stuff like that. Now,
Dynamite did go up a little bit in their ratings. They
hovered around that 900,000 to a million. Yeah.
Yeah, they were. I think they were 989 this week.
So, and then like I said, Raw is usually 1618. They did a 2 for the first time in a while. So, Rampage has been the last couple weeks. I want to say around that 430. They've been even doing less than NXT the last couple weeks. Which brings me. Let's do our first segment and let's talk about that. All right. So the first match on AEW Dynamite we had was Adam Cole versus Christian Cage. All right. Fantastic match. No surprise. Christian Cage has had a hell of a career so far in this business, if you don't know. Impact champion multiple times, and one of those was considered the NWA title as well. World title on SmackDown for a cup of coffee. U.S. champion, Intercontinental champion, multi-time tag champion.
Impact heavyweight champion.
Impact, yeah, exactly. And then Adam Cole, of course, winning every title in NXT and Ring of Honor champ. And now here we are. They're setting the world on fire. We have a great match. And I want to talk the aftermath because, like we're talking about Rampage, we see Red Dragon get involved. They start beating up on Christian Cage a little more. Out comes Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. They're all fighting. Our
AEW tag team champions.
Yes, we'll talk about that. And then Adam Cole's like, I'm not getting involved in that shit. I won my match. I don't care if I used a thumb to the eye. I won. Here comes Hangman's music. Hangman, like a man, slaps him in the face, tells him, you know what, you don't deserve a championship, but I'm going to give you one, and we're going to do a Texas Death Match. And this is where it's interesting. Remember what I said about Rampage? We have a live Rampage coming up, and Hangman Page says, I want to wrestle you on Rampage for the World Heavyweight Championship. So I think, obviously...
That's probably a good idea.
There's some stuff that was affecting that Rampage ratings too. They've been bumped.
You think the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, absolutely. But me and you both know, we've talked about this too. Rampage, they said in the beginning this was going to be an A show too. That has not been the case for a little while now. They were for a little while, even when they were taped. They were doing big
things. It's been a B show. They've been dropping matches that don't mean shit on there.
Yes.
And they've been treating it as a stepchild. This week is not a stepchild. This week has got some good wrestling on there.
This week we had some good wrestling. I had a friend who was in attendance. He said this was an awesome addition to Rampage. I can't wait to see. I know Yuta is wrestling Moxley again. And I heard
you're pure champion against Moxley. You've got Bryan Danielson against Trent Beretta. You've got Willow versus Red Velvet to qualify for the Owen Hart Championship tournament. And then you also have in the main event, I assume this is the main event, QT Marshall going up against Swerve Strickland.
I can't imagine that's not the main event.
I don't see how that couldn't be the main event.
Well, you said Owen Hart qualifier match, so let's go. Because I think we both kind of covered that one. Excellent match. They're putting emphasis on Rampage. We both think that's a great idea. So since you said qualifying match, let's talk about the next match on Rampage. On AEW Dynamite, which was an Owen Hart qualifying match for the men's. Max Caster versus the debuting Samoa Joe. This crowd.
Max Caster's raps are just absolutely insane. That's I love the part where he says, "I don't even know why you signed this guy. He was the champ when we beat him."
He was a champ when we beat him in the ratings. He made a joke about him being injury prone. He was.
The best part was Samoa Joe just nodding his head. Yeah, that's accurate. Yeah.
Right. And he didn't care. And then Joe just did what he does. Yeah.
But Joe showed a lot of personality in this match too. He literally is destroying them, and in between doing like little dance moves, and then goes right back to destroying them. Yeah.
I haven't seen Joe do that in like a decade, probably. I think I remember him doing that in the Impact days or something too, having a little fun. He was having fun.
This is the first time in a long time I've seen Samoa Joe be Samoa Joe and enjoy himself.
It seemed like he was having a lot of fun.
If that is what we are getting for AEW Dynamite, is that Samoa Joe? You done fucked up, WWE.
Fired him twice. They fired him twice.
Yes.
Afterwards, we have a backstage segment. Sanjay Dutt and Jay Lethal
that was great too.
Yeah, they were talking about how apparently Joe only returns his calls to billionaires, and that basically they're going to show him the respect he didn't show, and they're going to have a great surprise for him next week. I can only imagine this is sincere, and I can't wait to see what wonderful surprise they have for Samoa Joe.
Well, they also brought up a lot of things that are actually true in real life. Samoa Joe really did mentor Jay Lethal early in his career. He really did help him to get to that next level with his personality, with his wrestling. They really are off-camera friends. This is and Sanjay Dutt included. All of them are in that same time period in Impact, and all of them were catalysts in that area. So I'm intrigued by this storyline. I love that Jay Lethal's gone heel. I love that Samoa Joe's being Samoa Joe again, and I love Sanjay Dutt. I don't know how you feel about Sanjay Dutt. I have always liked Sanjay Dutt. His wrestling is underrated. His ability on the mic is definitely underrated. Love me some Sanjay Dutt.
Yeah, I'm happy to see him in this position. At Supercard of Honor, when he first took that cheap shot on Jonathan Gresham, I was kind of excited. I thought maybe that was going to be where it ended with him, but no, here he was on Dynamite. So,
well, the thing is, Sanjay hasn't been working really a lot over the last couple of years. He's primarily been producing for Impact and for Ring of Honor. So he has not been in the working, but as good as he is, I find it hard to believe that he won't still be a great worker if need be. Now, I don't know if he's just going to be a mouthpiece for Jay Lethal or if he's actually going to be working, but I love the pairing.
Absolutely. We had a brief interview in the back with Regal, Moxley, and Danielson talking about the matches on Rampage this week. Good enough for what it was. Quick thing.
You realize all they do every week is just come out and tell the truth.
Yeah. These guys
That's literally all they're doing.
And I feel like we're baby faces pretty much with them too, even though they're like badasses and beating you up. Like, I feel like they were already so popular out the gate. Like Danielson was going to be was being a heel, but I don't think that's the case anymore.
So the thing is, and even when it comes to Wheeler Yuta, they told Wheeler Yuta, hey, listen, you went through, you took your beating by Bryan Danielson. He's our great technician. You showed that you can stand toe-to-toe with him. Well, now you're going against a guy who's just going to brawl and beat the crap out of you and a psychopath. They're telling the truth every week as to what they're going to do. I love it.
And I mean, they didn't lose, but I mean, Luda obviously there's a story here with Mox where he had a match with him many months ago where Mox wiped the floor with him. Mox came back, and Yuta came back even stronger, and he looked really good, and he had really good moments. And now I expect this to even be a better match on Rampage. So they're going to be back and forth. I haven't seen any spoilers, but I can't wait to see.
I haven't either.
Yeah, I heard they had a great showing though.
I gotta tell you, these two and Wheeler Yuta, I've got to give credit to because they've done a great job of building him up. But you can build somebody up all day. Eventually, they have to take the ball and run with it. Wheeler Yuta, thus far, is taking the ball and running with it. So he is doing a great job.
Wheeler Yuta is a guy that a friend of mine went to see at Beyond Wrestling, and he was asking people. He says, "Hey, come on, buy my shirt." He's like, "I got to pay for my school books." This was only a couple of years ago. Now he's on.
It looks like he's 12 with a beard.
Yeah, he's super excited for this guy. All right, you remember back in the day? Of course, we had a lot of enhancement matches, like in the '80s and WWF and NWA, and occasionally you get that one jobber who maybe gets a win due to like outside interference. Like the good guys might come in.
You mean like Razor Ramon with the 1-2-3 Kid?
That is a tremendous example. That's the greatest example of all time because that led to Sean Waltman having a hell of a career. But I'm thinking more. There was guys like Rocky King.
Wait a minute. First of all, Rocky King just passed away.
I like
R.I.P. Rocky King. For those of you who don't know, Rocky King was a hell of an enhancement talent in the old NWA. One of the most athletic and one of the best drop kicks I saw early in my watching fandom.
And I think he was the weed guy for the Freebirds too. But
absolutely, that's what he wants to be known for.
That's I think he wanted the family. Everybody wanted to be known for.
Yeah, Michael Hayes is very sad right now.
I like Rocky King. I'm joking around. I liked Rocky King. I thought he was great. There was something about him. He stuck out. He was an enhancement guy. I said this to George South too. Like George South stuck out, despite the fact they got over back in those days.
But I assume you were going somewhere with this.
Yeah, occasionally. That would happen once in a while and go nowhere, but occasionally we get a storyline out of it, like the 1-2-3 Kid or something. And then
Barry Horowitz as the winner.
Yeah, he had a brief storyline, right? And I'm wondering if we're going to get something here. Captain Shawn Dean now has got his second victory on Dynamite over Shawn Spears.
4-1.
He's 4-1 this year. Yeah, he's got a few wins over on AEW Dark too. I think this could be a nice little story. I think he gets beat up next week by MJF. He loses. Yeah. And I think as he's getting beat down, I think Wardlow comes to the save. How about this? Captain Shawn Dean versus maybe Shawn Spears, right? And if Shawn Spears wins, we don't hear from Wardlow ever again. But if Shawn Dean wins, Wardlow can come back. And then this leads to a big tag match. And
I like where you're going with this, but I have a similar philosophy, and I think it might go a little bit different. I think Shawn Dean, because of Wardlow, gets the win against MJF this week. Mm-hmm. That causes MJF to be so frustrated. Hey, if Shawn Dean can beat me again, Wardlow can come back.
Okay. How about this? They beat him up really bad. Wardlow was to say they beat him down. And then, they have a thing where he keeps in, and he's like, all right, you want to get in here? But he says, you get to have, me and Sean, and we get to pick the referee. We get to pick, the cornerman, whatever, and then we pick your partner. They pick Shawn Dean, and then they think they have it in upper hand. They end up picking like the FTR was like a referee, and then like one as like a cornerman. And of course, those guys end up calling it down the middle. I don't know. There's a lot of things you can do with this. Is what I'm saying.
Any of those scenarios can happen. Yeah. The one scenario I'm hoping doesn't happen is MJF just comes out and beats the shit out of Shawn Dean.
Yeah, because I want to keep going somewhere. Yeah. But overall, the big thing coming out of this really is that Wardlow is super over, and this crowd is loving him.
Oh my God!
He beats the shit out of his security guards. Scott from Voluntown, who messages all the time. I didn't pick up on it, but he told me he had to go back and watch it because apparently one of those guys that got flung was one of the guys from Wave and Curls in Northeast Wrestling. Yeah. So,
was it the big guy?
I don't know, but one of them.
I hope it was.
Yeah.
Because the little guy, if he got thrown by Wardlow, might not have come down yet.
We had an interview with Jay Cargo next.
When is this match?
Yeah, I know that's a good question. We are building towards this match.
I thought it was going to be on Dynamite this week. It wasn't on Dynamite this week.
Not
maybe they're going to have it on Rampage. It's not on Rampage.
There's 3 shows next week, right? Battle of the Belts is next week too.
Yeah, so maybe it's that Battle of the Belts.
Actually, this might be on Dynamite next week. I think I could be wrong, but yeah, Marina Shafir. We just saw her on Bloodsport last weekend. She's looking good. She's only had 1 loss in AEW. I think she's undefeated this year. And I don't know. I think this is an interesting matchup. Do you feel like eventually Jay Cargo is going to be hold on, producer Joe in the comments here. The Maria Shafir Jay Cargo match. We're wondering when that's coming up, if they announced it yet. We think it's on AEW Dynamite.
Yeah, I think it's Dynamite next week.
But we're not sure.
They haven't been overly clear, Lord knows.
But yeah, like this match has been, they keep building up this match. I hope that. I
like her host section. That's nice.
The baddie section. The baddie.
Potato.
Beautiful people, positive energy. That's what this is supposed to be about. That's why I don't know. I'm wondering if she's going to be a babyface down the road.
How does baddie stand for beautiful people with positive energy?
I don't think that's the correct, but that's like what they're supposed to be. You know? Like,
yeah, I'm going to stick with the host section.
He forgets he believes Dynamite could be Rampage. Yeah, I know it's not this week either way.
It's not often enough that they build for 2 weeks out on Rampage.
Yeah, or just a match that's like, we wouldn't really think that would get this kind of build.
Although that is the live Rampage with Cowboy versus Adam versus
Adam Cole.
Adam Cole. Jesus Christ, too many Adams.
Adam Page versus Adam Cole.
If there's anything my mom always said, too many Adams.
Cowboy Bill Watson to put up with this shit.
No.
All right, then we had the Hardys versus the Butcher and the Blade tables match. I
like the Butcher and the Blade more and more each week, whereas I like the Hardys a little less each week.
Confusing match in some ways. I don't know if you picked up on it. I know sometimes you'll fast forward to things.
Oh, no. I picked up on it. Didn't make any sense whatsoever. People were eliminated after they went to the table, and somehow the guy who ended the match was the guy who was eliminated.
I ordered that too.
That doesn't bother me at all.
Like Post was talking about this, and Wade was clearing it up for John that just because you're eliminated, you can still compete.
But how can you hit
But why does he get to be the guy who eliminates you still if you're eliminated?
Yeah, how can the guy who's otherwise? Why is anybody eliminated?
That doesn't make any sense. I get it's no DQ if he wants to help his brother, and you're going to say okay,
but Matt should have to deliver the move.
Right, that's confusing. But I think you should. But whatever, I get it. But he actually puts him through the table. So I don't see how that makes sense.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, Butcher and the Blade, that match is still going.
Hardys win. Afterwards, Andrade shows up with the rest of his crew. His translator that looks like Scott Putney.
Sting with no Darby Allin.
Oh yeah, you're right. We didn't get Darby. Sting was just by himself on there. Interesting.
Maybe Darby was too busy telling Priscilla Kelly to keep her mouth shut.
That I don't know. I hear they're on good terms still, unlike some people. Anyway.
Well, I meant that in a positive way, that he was giving her solid advice.
Like a baddie.
Yeah.
Baddie. All right. So backstage, Christian Cage is seen pouring water himself. This is interesting because Jurassic Express then cut the interview that they want to face Red Dragon, and they challenged them to a match. They're going to put their tag belts on the line. But what I thought was interesting here is Christian just abruptly just gets up and leave. I think we're setting up for a Christian heel turn.
Okay, first of all, I've been saying for weeks that Christian Cage is better off as a heel. Whatever he is doing right now is almost as stupid as having Gunther lose on NXT.
You mean being a rah-rah guy for Jurassic Express isn't
how you've got this legendary wrestler, this guy who, okay, first of all, he's legendary for being Edge's rah-rah guy, but there's a big difference between being Edge's rah-rah guy and being Jurassic Park's rah-rah guy.
Express.
Whatever. All I know is that they're the only team that should not be the World Tag Team Champs in AEW.
I don't know. I mean, like, there are a couple teams I consider better. We'll talk about a lot of.
Think of a team that you consider worse.
I don't know about worse.
Air Country?
Booking and stuff like that and personality. Like, I'd rather have them as tag champs than say the Dark Order still. But that's
really? You wouldn't want to see the titles on Silver and
I didn't say Silver Reynolds. I was thinking of Stu Grayson and Evil Uno. Wow. But yeah, I mean, I just think that's just the way they're, been pushed.
I can't wait to tell John Silver in person May 21st at Pistol Pete's, where you can still get your tickets to do the meet and greet in the VIP section. I can't wait to tell John Silver that you don't want to see the tag titles on him.
I'm rooting for you, Johnny boy. All right. After that, we have a couple segments. Nyla Rose in the back. She's talking about, basically wanting Thunder Rosa. I think that's been booked for Battle of the Belts. That's coming up. And then we had Jamie Hayter and Toni Storm with a little face-off talking about potentially meeting up in the Owen Hart tournament. I like the fact that we're building towards this. And it says to me that they're probably not going to be against each other in the brackets, but they're probably going to win a few matches and then meet. And I think that's a good little storyline.
First of all, I would just like it if both of them spoke better English. Secondly, obviously that's a little joke because one of them's English and one's Australian, but that's neither here nor there. But I love these two. I think that Toni Storm is one of the great wrestlers out there when she concentrates on wrestling. And then Jamie Hayter, I think, is one of the most underrated female wrestlers that we have right now. I think that she's rock solid. She can wrestle both a technical match and a strength match. So I'm looking forward to those two just beating the crap out of each other.
I think it'll be good. Now, Hikaru Shida versus Julia Hart. Julia Hart.
I like that.
Sends away the Varsity Blondes to the back.
Not only did she send them away, she started off the match by choking her with her jacket, attacking her from behind, and then she sends out the Blondes because the Blondes are like, what are you doing? And she's like, I don't need you two schmucks out here. Why don't you go pretend like you're wrestlers in the back?
I think the original plan, and maybe still is that she's going to join the House of Black possibly. I don't know if she's a fit with them because I don't quite buy her as that intense, but I don't know. Maybe she could be.
She could be. I think some of it would just be changing her look a little bit. I think if you dressed her a little bit more like Liv Morgan and a little bit less like Debbie the cheerleader down the road, I think that it would be much more poignant.
Well, Shida wins this match. Afterwards, Serena Deeb comes in, tries to cheap shot her, and Shida is ready with the kendo stick, and Deeb holds the chair. They face off but don't fight. So again, we're continuing this feud, and I like the fact that we're putting an emphasis. WWE could do this a little better too on not just women's championship matches, but we actually have other feuds going on.
There's all kinds of storylines underneath. We've talked about Toni Storm and Jamie Hayter with a storyline underneath. Yep. We've talked about Julia Hart changing her personality. We've talked about Shida versus the Professor. This is really, really good stuff that they are working underneath.
And they've been building for weeks now this Marina Shafir Jay Cargo match. And there's a secondary women's title. So, and we have an Owen Hart's women's tournament as well.
Absolutely. Red Velvet versus Willow tonight live and in Technicolor. Well, it's not live, but live to tape on Rampage tonight.
We had one more segment right before the main event. Swerve is backstage. He's talking about being in the Grammys. But he hasn't forgotten that last match where Hobbs interfered and cost him against Starks. All of a sudden, he's ready to go back in the dressing room. Here comes Hobbs and Starks to beat the crap out of him. Keith Lee comes in. They don't get the upper hand for a minute, though. Starks and Hobbs actually get the better. And then as Hobbs decides he's going to Ricky, kick his ass. Turns around, gets put through a wall. Yeah, it's interesting.
Those are two big, strong men right there.
They are.
Yeah, Hobbs and Keith Lee might be two of the biggest and strongest guys in wrestling. So
I like it. I like the visual, even though obviously we know it's a cheap sheet of wall. Obviously, nobody's going through a wall, but it's fun for what it was.
But once again, similar to what we talked about with the women, they're driving storylines other than championship storylines forward. And they're doing it on multiple platforms. This has been very big on Rampage, but now they got a little bit of the storyline on Dynamite. I think they're doing a good job of driving that storyline forward.
Excuse me. One other thing too. I want to say I like, because AEW has 2 women's titles, and they have the tag belts, and then we basically have the heavyweight championship and the TNT championship. So there's not a ton of titles, but what they're doing, and it kind of reminds me of the old NWA days, is you have essentially, like, I don't want to say champions from other territories, but we have Ring of Honor champions kind of mingling in and stuff too, that we can take in and out. We've had the Impact title and stuff defended here, and then it gets back. The FTW is not a recognized title, but we can still have it defended. To me, it's a nice
FTR comes out every week with more tag titles.
They have the AAA tag titles.
Now they got the Ring of Honor World tag titles.
So to me, it's a nice way of kind of like using belts to help elevate matches, but you don't have to keep them around all the time. They're not necessarily diluting your other titles, because it's not like anybody can be a champion in just one promotion. So to me, it's a nice way of, like, what the WWE doesn't get right. It's like WWE has all these different belts and then we can be champion, but because AEW is working with all these other companies and stuff, it's a nice way to kind of do this.
I am willing to bet you that if I go up to 10 people at a WWE event, that at least 3 of those 10 will not be able to tell you who the U.S. or Intercontinental Champion actually is.
I don't know if I could right now. I could. Give me a second. But, like, right off the top of my head, Finn Balor.
Which belt's he holding?
Give me a minute. I need to remember who the other champion is first. The other guy beat Sami Zayn for it. Oh, it's fucking Ricochet.
Yes.
Ricochet is the Intercontinental champ?
Yes.
Yeah, and Finn's the U.S. champ. Yeah.
Yes.
That took me a minute. I had to, think about it and go through them, because they're booked so poorly, too.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. FTW World Champ, Ricky Starks, right? AEW World Champion is Hangman Page. TNT Champion is Scorpio Sky. He might be the one that's least getting pushed right now, which is kind of sad.
Hell, I can tell you the Ring of Honor Pure Champion, Wheeler Yuta. You've got FTR, which has the AAA Mania Tag Team Championships. They've also got the Ring of Honor World Tag Titles. They make the belts matter. Same thing on the women's side. Out of
Gresham's Ring of Honor World Champ, and we know Deonna Purrazzo is the women's champ right now.
Exactly.
And we know the interim women's champ is Mercedes Martinez.
So how little is the WWE making their belts matter?
Yeah, there's definitely not enough emphasis on it. Well, we talked about it. FTR, holy shit. What a set of matches in 5 days' time. They win the Ring of Honor titles against the Briscoes, and then they have this match with the Young Bucks. It's phenomenal. It's great back and forth. I love the little things. FTR, the baby faces, but still doing some of those heel things. Like the streamers that came out from the Bucks, they blow their nose on it, Bucks throw their jackets at them.
First of all, I love the tribute to the Midnight Express gear. I thought that was fantastic.
Gear, the music they have, everything is, and then they have their tributes to, like, Brett they do with the sharpshooters. They like, these guys do things I've seen in the ring over the years where they tribute to the Hart Foundation, Tully and Iron, the Midnight Express. I've seen them do demolition tributes at times. They're
great.
Absolutely.
And this match was great.
What I really liked about it was, and the same thing with their Briscoes, was it was all the perfect elements if you got to see this live, because you got the feeling anybody could win, and it was back and forth. You didn't know what was going to happen, and it was a phenomenal match with a hot crowd each time, and you didn't know what the outcome was going to be.
FTR shows every week and in every event that they can work with any style tag team. You could not have 2 tag teams that are more different than the Briscoes and the Young Bucks, and to have them wrestle both of them within a few days and have such great matches with both of them. FTR is just so on top of their game right now.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
They do remind me a little bit of the Fantastics. Good call.
I just think a lot of people say the Bucks is the greatest tag team of the last 10 years. I'm not going to disagree, but I'm not going to agree either. I think it's a debatable point, but for my money, I just love FTR.
On any given night, when you say somebody's the greatest at something, you can have a different flavor every. We've had this discussion, obviously, most people, when you ask who's the greatest wrestler of all time, Ric Flair will pop into their head. But we have different flavors for different nights and different categories of greatest of what. And that's so I'm not going to take anything away from the Young Bucks. I think the Young Bucks are definitely in the conversation for one of the great tag teams, but FTR is so damn good right now.
FTR. Let's talk about
almost up there with Jurassic Express.
Let's talk about. I like Red Dragon better than Jurassic Express too. Like the top 3 teams in that company are FTR, the Bucks, and Red Dragon. Like that's
without a doubt.
Yeah.
Although let me tell you something. That team, the brothers there. Oh God, what the hell is their name? They wrestled Young Bucks last week.
Top Flight.
What is it?
Top Flight.
Yeah, Top Flight. They've got all the potential in the world too to be a great tag team. Also, yeah, both of them are so athletic. The hardest thing for them is going to be for one of them not to break off into singles, because both of them have the ability to be single stars also.
All right, AJ, I'm going to give you my top 5 of the week, and I think we're going to go home because I'll be surprised if you disagree, but you might disagree with one, so let me hit you with it. All right, top 5 of the week. Steve Austin coming back for one more main event match. Cody Rhodes makes his return to WWE. Yeah. Samoa Joe comes back to wrestling this week to Ring of Honor and then AEW. And then the final 2 spots, I'm going to give it to my boys FTR, their match against the Briscoes, and then their match against the Bucks.
I agree with you. I do. I agree with you.
Want to add something?
The one that we're going to be a little bit different on is I actually enjoyed Raw Cody Rhodes better than I enjoyed WrestleMania Cody Rhodes. Nothing against WrestleMania. I thought he was great there too. And the match was fantastic. But the emotion that he showed in talking about his dad, talking about showing the picture of his dad, Dusty, holding up the belt. Obviously, we've seen that match many times. Billy Graham's versus Dusty Rhodes, and Dusty winning by, count out or disqualification, whatever the result was.
Yeah.
And holding the belt up afterwards, and the crowd going nuts thinking he had won. One of the original Dusty finishes, if you will. But the emotion and the glimpse into what he's going through that we got from Cody there, to me, that was a little bit more poignant than his match at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I really did like that promo a lot. We could tie it. I'd say just put it in there on the whole thing with Cody Rhodes this weekend.
Yeah, we could just call it a Cody Rhodes weekend extravaganza.
Yeah.
But overall, I agree with you. There is one other thing. Samoa Joe returning could possibly make the top 5.
I had it. Oh,
you did? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that was my number 3. Yep.
Oh, gotcha. If anything, I would tie FTR's tag teams in there also, because for me, what we saw from Jay Lethal this weekend was also great.
No problem with Jay Lethal. So yeah, I'll comment one more thing about that Cody Rhodes since you brought it up. That interview was so good, and it felt completely different than anything else we're getting on WWE right now.
It was raw. I mean, I hate to use a pun.
Right.
But it was raw. It was an open nerve. I think it's really how he feels.
And
I think the emotion. Yeah.
Him going up, I didn't know you were a champion like Hulk Hogan. That sounds like something a kid would have said. And Dusty would have probably, keeping it somewhat of work, would have told his kid, no, baby, it has disqualification, champion's advantage. You could just see it. And the fact that he wanted to be able to hand that belt to his father, you believe that. And, then is the dream really dead? Because he could still do this and honor him. And you believe all of that.
Saying now he has the ability to hand the belt to his child and hand the legacy down to the next generation. Mm-hmm. All of it was just raw, emotional. It's what wrestling at its best is. When wrestling is at its best, it draws you in emotionally, like The Undertaker this weekend, which, by the way, could have been another.
Oh, that should have been. What the hell were we thinking? Of course that has to be in there. Yeah, we'll tie the FTR matches, and that has to be number 5.
Sorry.
Absolutely. It's such a big weekend. Absolutely. Undertaker going into the Hall of Fame. Yeah. Glad we started talking about that. Absolutely. That has to be in there. Whether you love him, don't love, you have to respect that guy.
And it's the raw emotion. Once again, similar to Cody, you could see the raw emotion in his eyes. You could feel it in everything he was saying, talking about his late father, talking about his wife and how she saved his life, talking about the group that he hung out with there. What is it, the BTM or whatever it is? Talking about each one of those individuals and how much he misses them on a daily basis. His dealings with Crush and Yoko, how he spent literally the last moments of their lives with them and didn't realize it at the time until after it happened that it was the last moments of their lives and what it meant to him to actually be there. It just is pure emotion.
I have to say, too, speaking of that real quick, let's get back to Cody Rhodes before we get out of here one more time. Shawn Michaels, I was once listening to an interview. He talked about how he didn't want to come back for one more match. And we know he did that tag match in Australia for probably a shit ton of money. But like he said, the great story arc, the fact that he never got to really had to change his name or anything like that. And if you follow his career from like Mid-South to AWA, World Class, like, and then, you know, back to WWF and then AWA and then WWF and then his singles run, it's all Shawn Michaels. It's all the metamorphosis of this character throughout the thing. And that storyline arc has never been quite told that.
His real name is Michael Hickenbottom.
But in wrestling, he's always been Shawn Michaels, right? Yeah. My point is, what a story this will be for Cody Rhodes to start his career, basically, other than like maybe Ohio Valley and stuff like that.
To get to be Cody Rhodes.
To get basically what I'll say it like a Big Show, like where he basically is already kind of peaked and you're kind of already being used. No, he doesn't accept that.
No.
He goes out. He makes a huge splash on Independence, New Japan, starts another friggin' company that now has been the biggest alternative since WCW in 20 years. And what does he do after that when he starts to peak? And maybe he's starting to become a little stale in this company too. No, I'm going back to where I started, a bigger star with more emphasis on it. If this journey is complete and he does end up winning the world title, especially from a guy.
It's one of the great stories of all time.
This is going to be one of the best stories of at least the modern era. And it really is going to be interesting to see how history books will pick Cody Rhodes. But this world title win, I think, would be a big thing for him.
And think about how emotional it's going to be if he does get that title.
Yeah.
You want to talk about emotion that's going to be pouring out of people. I can only imagine when that bell rings and he raises that title above his head, what that would actually mean. And right now, the current person, in order for him to do that right now, he's got to go over the head of the table.
Yeah.
The man who's in God mode.
Rival chief.
The man who's been champion for over 530-something days.
Yeah. If we get this to SummerSlam and we got Cody Rhodes hot, he's still hot and people are talking about him, they're buzzing, and Roman hasn't still lost yet and he's still the champ. Is this like the biggest match? I mean, I think SummerSlam is like the perfect place for it, right?
Not only that, but think about the bloodlines. The Rhodes family versus the Samoa and dynasty. I mean, you've got two of the great wrestling families of all time going head to head.
I agree. I think you can't wait forever on this, but I think if you make this, like, I think it could be hot, and I think if done right, we could get this to the summer. This could be your SummerSlam program. And, yeah, I'd like to see it. I'd like to see Cody be the guy to dethrone him. I don't know if they'll let him, but I think this would be amazing. And by the way, have Roman win it back if you still want to do Roman versus The Rock at Mania.
Oh, absolutely.
In LA. Yeah.
Well, all you got to do is have Cody hold it through to Royal Rumble, have Roman win it back at Royal Rumble, Rock wins the Royal Rumble itself, and you've got Rock versus Roman at WrestleMania.
You could do something to split the titles up again if you wanted to, too. At some
You could absolutely do that, too.
Yeah.
But this is just, there's so many opportunities here. I just hope Vince doesn't fuck it up.
Me too. Well, all right. There was a lot to talk about this week.
Oh, we did 45 minutes here for the folks. We really are the Working Fans Podcast.
All right. Yeah, we ended early, too. But thanks for tuning in, guys. Fun episode. We'll be back next week talking about more good wrestling action. We'll keep trying to track down some interviews. To everybody who's sent me comments for everything that went on with my mom and everything in the last week, I appreciate your support. We're back in the saddle. We're going to keep going on like my mom would have wanted. The legacy, this podcast continues. And guys, just as always, appreciate your support. And thank you for tuning in.